Introducing Randall Stephenson, Hall of Fame legend, Richard Fisher.
I'm not going to sing in Spanish or in English. It's a long way from Randall Lynn Stephenson's humble beginnings to becoming the CEO and chairman of one of the most storied and important companies in American history. Randall grew up advantaged, and by that I mean his mother was kind and loving, a homemaker. His dad was a cattle rancher, cattle feed business, as was mentioned. Sometimes they were flush, sometimes they were far from, or as Randall told me once, in some years our shoes were too tight, our jeans were too short, but so many times our jeans were halfway up our shins and our shoes didn't fit at all. After school, he mentioned a small town in Oklahoma, that was Moore, Oklahoma. Randall went to the University of Central Oklahoma. And as he said in the video, he was there to study animal husbandry. He glossed over what happened on that 105 degree a day. And that was in still water. He was palpating a mama cow. And to keep this from being X-rated, I'll let you all look up that phrase later on. That was when it hit him. And I have visions of him sitting there doing what you do when you palpate, saying, Lord, this just isn't my calling. He shifted to majoring in accounting, as he mentioned, and he got a job changing magnetic tapes during overnight shifts at SBC. And that's the company we know today as AT&T. Only Randall and Lenise, who was his junior high school sweetheart, and now his wife of 39 years, could have imagined the potential that this man had, that he would rise to the helm of AT&T and then so capably steer that gigantic ship for 13 remarkable years. I want to give you some numbers to put this in context. In those 13 years, Randall grew AT&T's revenue to $181 billion. He increased cash flow to $48 billion. And as he showed you on that screen, created a one-of-a-kind partnership with Apple to place the iPhone on AT&T's network, growing the company's mobility business to 165 million subscribers. He invested $250 billion in CapEx. That's more than any other US company. Meanwhile, returning $130 billion to his shareholders in dividends. The numbers that he realized and oversaw are truly mind-boggling. And John Goff, you're going to love this. By the time he retired, he was overseeing 206 million square feet of property. Imagine what you could do with that, John. Remarkable. By the way, some people think that's the largest footprint of property in America, second only to that of the US government. And then very much in the spirit of the work done here by the Texas Business Hall of Fame, as you saw Lori Lee mention it. To commit to the advancement of others, he committed $600 million to AT&T's Aspire program to educate and mentor and train millions of students and also adult learners. From being a scrawny little kid in rural Oklahoma, who by his own admission was so ungainly as a child, the way he described in his own words, he looked like a calf walking on ice, to becoming this tall, extraordinary, capable, national captain of industry that he became was no small thing. Randall Stephenson is indeed a legend in Texas business, but he's more to me than that, and to the others who have had the pleasure of working with him. In the maritime world, it's said that a true captain, a best-in-class captain, is more than a capable helmsman. In the words of John Paul Jones, the father of the Navy, he should also be a person of, quote, refined manners, punctilious courtesy, and the nicest sense of personal honor. That describes Randall Stephenson to a T, or I should say an ATT. He is one of the finest, most decent, honorable men I've ever known. So ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the sixth, but certainly not the least deserving honoree, the great palpator, Randall Stephenson.
Careful, Richard Fisher's walking around with a recorder in his pocket, I think. There's some stories I don't even remember telling him in there, man. The silver-haired fox. It's great to be introduced by you. Very dear friend. I mean, he and Missy have become two of our dearest friends, and just appreciate all that you have done with me over the years, sitting on the AT&T board. He served as a mentor and a guide, and I just have the greatest admiration for him and what he's done for the state of Texas, serving as the head of the Federal Reserve Bank here. Just we all owe him a debt of gratitude as well. I also want to thank my AT&T family and my successor, John Stanky, who is over here. It's been sentimental seeing all you guys. I miss you all. I don't miss you enough to want to come back, but I miss you all. And it's really great seeing you. I don't stand up here were it not for you guys. As John Goff said, you know, I was just the pretty face. You guys were doing all the work, and so I just appreciate you so much. I also want to recognize my bride of 39 years, as Richard mentioned, chasing me around to Mexico for 4 years with 2 little babies and small kids, and just all the sacrifices you have made to allow me to do the things that have been such a thrill and a joy, and I just love you. Thank you for all you have done. I wanted to introduce my kids who are here, but my son-in-law said, look, if you can kind of skip us and get us out of here earlier. But I do want to recognize Abby and Randy, my 2 daughters, and their husbands, Will and Zach, and just thank you guys for chasing me around as well. And I got to tell you, I've been sitting here just listening to the stories and the folks speak tonight. And first of all, it's just an honor to be up here in the same group with all of you. But you're listening and you're going, it's a good thing, Texas Business Hall of Fame, that we are recognizing business leaders and that we're celebrating business leaders. And I'm listening to this and I'm thinking we're celebrating the business leaders as a proxy for celebrating Texas business. And I'm just, as you watch this, you just can't help but think that Texas business in general, is to be celebrated. It's a good thing. And I'm asked by young people, some of them that are here, you know, when they're trying to evaluate what they want to do, I always say, think business first. I think business and commerce is one of the most noble endeavors that's available to young people today. And I know our politicians sometimes like to demonize business as a rule. I think that's very unfortunate. I happen to believe that at its very core, business is virtuous. There is virtue in business. And I tell people that, and I get a funny reaction. Some actually seem incredulous when I mention business and virtue in the same breath. But I do believe there is incredible virtue in what you've heard the stories about up here tonight. There is true virtue in this. And you can go back to the ancient texts, far back as the beginning of modern man, and see the virtue of business. In fact, you go into the Bible, one of my greatest stories in the Bible I love is about the nobleman who is going away for a long trip. And before he leaves, he gives his capital to 10 guys. And he tells these 10 guys, the exact quote is, put it to work. He goes away on a long trip. He gets anointed as a king. And he comes back from the trip and he does what all the people up here you heard tonight do. He has an ops review. And he asks those guys, what did you do with my capital? And the first guy said, the guy's now a king. He says, King, I compounded your money 10 times. And you remember what the king said to him? Wow. Here are 10 cities. Go do in those communities what you did in this community. The next guy said, King, I compounded your money 5 times. He says, here's 5 cities for you. Go into those cities and do there what you did here. If you remember the third guy, he said, I was scared to death of you. I didn't want to lose your money, and so I just stored your money away. And look here. He hands the king back his money, said, "I didn't lose a nickel." And if you recall the story, the king gets really, really upset. And he said, "You didn't put the money to work. You didn't even put it in the bank to make interest. Those guys, those other guys, they went out and they engaged in business. They invested my money. They hired people, they trained people, and they created community. They benefited the community." Business and community go hand in hand. You don't have strong communities if you don't have strong business. And I think it's really special that what we're celebrating here tonight is the nobility of what you've heard each of these gentlemen and Kendra talk about. The nobility of investing, the nobility of creating some great product that makes society's lives better, the nobility of hiring people, the nobility of training people, the nobility of providing health care, the nobility of investing in research and development, the nobility of building community. It's been that way since the ancient of days, and it's that way still today. And so I just take my hat off to the Texas Business Hall of Fame for every year you cause us just to stop, to pause, to reflect, and to celebrate the beauty and the virtue of business. So thank you for what you do. Thank you for this honor. It truly is an honor, and it's a pleasure to be here. And again, thanks so much.